Hey, podcast friends. This is Dr. Steve Hewlett with the podcast Simple Healthy Choices for Weight Loss, where every week we help people who have realized that as their health has been declining over the years, the number of medications they are being prescribed is increasing. We realize that even though the path to better health and a medication-free life may be very simple, it definitely is not easy. We truly want to help you change your habits and change your thoughts about what true health nutrition is. And now we can. We are so excited to provide you our new online Thrive Naturally Transformation course. This course is complete with 10 to 15 minute videos that will not only walk you through changing your home and mental environment, but also teach you how exactly different foods we put in our mouths can have devastatingly horrible effects on the body and how some have great healing ability. If you'd like to enroll in our new Thrive Naturally Transformation course, please go to our website, drstevehewlett.com, and click on the Work With Us tab at the top of the page. We truly are here to help you get off medications and start living the vibrant, pain-free life that you would love to live. Hey, welcome back, podcast friends. And in today's episode, this is another question that we get asked all the time. Now that people are starting to realize how toxic man-made food is, they're starting to realize, okay, I know I need to be eating healthy, but now what are my options? And we've talked about a lot of options in past podcasts. In fact, our last podcast, we talked about them. But one of the things that comes up all the time is eggs. And are eggs healthy for us? And the simple answer is yes, eggs are very healthy for us. There are some people who are allergic to eggs, and I'll talk about that in just a little bit. But in general, eggs are very good because remember, eggs, that supplies all the nutrients that chicken needs to be able to grow. But it just so happens it's the same kind of nutrients we need. So again, we talk about the nutrients that we need. We need protein. We need fat. We need cholesterol. That's what we need, along with the vitamins and the minerals. What we don't need is any kind of carbohydrates, any kind of a glucose plant-based food. We don't need that. But anyway, we've talked about this in certain things. So as far as just the eggs have that. They have fat in them, and the fat and cholesterol, and they also have protein in them. And it's about equal. There's about 5 grams of fat per egg and about 6 grams of protein per egg. And this is very good. And the fats, they contain omega-3s, which is an essential fatty acid that is an anti-inflammatory fatty acid. So your omega-3s, when you increase those, that helps decrease the inflammation in your body, which, as you've heard me talk, the 3 pillars of disease are high glucose levels, high insulin levels, and high inflammation throughout the body. Those 3 things are what's killing all of us. It's what's causing all our disease states. It's what's causing everybody to be on medications. So you do not want that. You do want fats, you do want protein, you do want cholesterol. And I actually did a whole podcast just on cholesterol on episode number 113. Does high cholesterol cause heart attacks? Because that's what everybody's scared of. Oh, gotta watch eggs. It has cholesterol, cause heart attacks. That's a lie. There have never been any studies that show that high cholesterol causes heart attacks. And we'll talk about that. But the other things that eggs have, they have iron, which we need iron. They also have what's called choline. And choline is a very, very vital nutrient that is used in almost everything. It works in all our nerve functions. It works in all of our muscle functions. It protects against breast cancer. So choline is a very important nutrient that we need. It also has lutein in it. And lutein, this is an antioxidant, but it helps with the eyes. It fights against things like macular degeneration, which is a common cause of blindness. So you need lutein. There's also a zeaxanthin. And this is an antioxidant, but this also protects the eye, but it protects you from UV light. Now, UV light is good, but you also don't want too much of it also. So that's where the zeaxanthin comes in. They also have vitamin D. Vitamin D, that helps with the calcium absorption and gives you stronger bones, gives you healthy tendons, healthy muscles. There's so many things that vitamin D is so good for. So eggs have that as well. Obviously, the best way is go out in the sun without sunscreen. Do not burn. So don't stay out very long until your body gets used to it. Then you stay out longer and longer. But once you put sunscreen on, you've just added a bunch of chemicals to your body that your body doesn't need. And you're keeping all the very important sun rays from getting in your skin. And these sun rays are very, very healthy for us. So we don't want to be blocking that. You just don't want to be silly and go out and get burned. So just as long as you don't get burned, you need sun without the sunscreen. But anyway, that's another topic. So vitamin D is good. Vitamin A, it also has vitamin A, it has B12, it has zinc, and all these are extremely healthy for all kinds of things. I mean, even helping your hair grow and your nails grow, but it's used for so many different things. And what they found also, which obviously, when you eat something like eggs for breakfast instead of something like oatmeal or toast or breakfast bar or any of the other carbohydrate, sugar infested stuff, when you eat eggs, it keeps you feeling full for a lot longer. So if you have a good meal at breakfast with eggs, and breakfast could be anytime you want it. You may not eat your breakfast till 2:00 in the afternoon. Breakfast just means break fast. So however you fasted all the way through the night, whenever you have your very first meal, even if it's 4:00 in the afternoon, that's still a breakfast. So because you're breaking your fast. So when you break a fast, the best thing, if you could do that with like scrambled eggs and sausage or bacon or something like that, if you're wanting a breakfast food, that's going to keep you full for a lot longer than some of these carbohydrates that people eat with the fruit juices and oatmeals and toast and all the stuff that does not satisfy you, gives you no nutrients, and makes you very hungry in about 2 to 3 hours. So we want you to stay away from that. But anyway, that's other podcasts also. The biggest thing with eggs is there are people who are allergic to eggs. If someone is allergic to eggs, you're going to know by the different symptoms they have. They're going to have like, if you eat eggs and you get watery eyes or hives or rashes or redness or swelling or stomach cramps or vomiting or asthma or anything like that, that is usually meaning you are allergic to eggs. Now, a couple of things with this. When you're allergic to eggs, it's usually the egg whites because that's where the albumin is. That's a protein. It's a lot of protein. It's good. But some people are allergic to that protein in the egg whites. You can try to get the egg whites out and only eat the egg yolks, but that's hard. But the other thing they found out is that most people, if they say they're allergic to eggs, one, it's the egg whites, but two, it's usually chicken eggs because the amount of protein that's in there is different for chicken eggs versus like goose eggs or quail eggs or duck eggs. So chicken eggs usually have about 12% albumin in the whites of the eggs. And duck eggs only have about 2% albumin. So a lot of times people may be allergic to chicken eggs, but not to duck eggs or to goose eggs or quail eggs. So that's something you can try. The other thing, a lot of people have allergies to eggs just because they've been eating man-made frankenfood for so long that they've totally torn up their GI tracts without even realizing it. So now they have this leaky GI tract that when you eat all these things, your intestines don't keep it out of the blood anymore because we've eaten all these toxins that are hurting our GI tracts. That's why we're seeing all the bloating and constipation and diarrhea and Crohn's disease, inflammatory bowel disease and irritable bowel syndrome, and just all these GI issues because of the frankenfood that we eat in these box bottles, bags, and cans. When you eat natural food, when you go back to eating God-made food, real meat, real fruit, real vegetables, you start healing your GI tract. And once you heal your GI tract, now things that you used to be allergic to, like eggs, and I even did a podcast with a girl who she'd had rheumatoid arthritis for 20 years on all kinds of medications, never could take care of it. She started eating healthy, got rid of all that food, and she totally healed her GI tract. She has no more rheumatoid arthritis. She had IBS really bad, no more IBS. She couldn't used to smell an egg without getting sick. And now she can eat like 6 eggs a day with no problem whatsoever, just by healing the GI tract, by eating the proper nutrients and staying away from man-made products. So if you find that you're allergic to eggs, that is something that you might want to think about, is trying a different type of egg. The other thing is whether you have raw eggs or cook eggs. If you have raw eggs, there is something in that called avidin. And avidin is a protein that binds to B7, and B7 is biotin. So if you have a raw egg that has avidin, which they do, this could bind to biotin and keep that from being able to get absorbed into your bloodstream. And that's not really good because you need biotin. If you have a biotin deficiency, that could lead to anything like seizures. You can have skin disorders. You can have hair loss, joint pain. You can have decreased muscle tone, coordination. There's a lot of things that you need B7 for, biotin for. And so you really don't want to eat the eggs raw because you don't want binding to the biotin to keep it from being absorbed. You need the biotin. However, once you cook those eggs, the heat causes this structural change in the avidin, And so it makes it where it doesn't bind to the biotin anymore. So it doesn't have to worry about it. So that's why cooking eggs really is better than eating raw eggs. And, for most of us, it also is going to taste a lot better. But they found that the shorter cooking times are better. So you can warm it up enough so you change the evidence so it doesn't affect the biotin, but you also keep all the other nutrients of the egg intact. And the best egg sources, if you're going to get eggs, anytime you get eggs, instead of getting something like, bread, oatmeal, pasta, toast, any of this man-made Frankenfood stuff, eggs are always going to be a healthier choice. So whether you get it from farm fresh eggs or whatever, that's up to you. But yes, there are qualities of eggs. There are some eggs that come from chickens that are on these CAFOs, these concentrated animal feeding operations, where all these eggs, all these chickens are just next to each other. They're pooping all over. They're eating each other's poop. I mean, it really is disgusting. Any diseases that pass around the chicks and everything. Yes, those eggs are still going to be better than eating some of this other alternatives to healthy food. However, if you can get the eggs that are free range, the ones that where the chickens are out, they can go around and eat pastures, they can eat the insects, they can eat the grass. Those are going to be the kinds of eggs that are a lot more nutritious. And you don't want anything, these CAFOs, these concentrated animal feeding operations, they feed their chickens, instead of letting them eat grass and insects and everything, what they do is they feed them feed that is made out of soy or made out of corn. And both of those are horrible for us. And they have all these toxins, all these chemicals. So now they're feeding to the chickens. And so now you're eating that also. Again, it's better than the other man-made food that you get in the center aisles of the grocery stores, but you'd really rather have to have a chicken that's actually local. It'd be the best. If you could buy eggs from a local farmer or your farmer's markets, by far, that's going to be better. And a lot of times, and you can tell when we buy our eggs from a farmer, from a local farmer, which is exactly how we get our eggs. When we do that and you open up, the yolks are this real dark, rich amber color, and they taste so good and they look so much different. However, don't be fooled just by the egg yolks, the color of being dark, because that is true. And that does mean they have a lot more nutrients. However, that dark orange that these eggs are, usually that means that these chickens have been foraging. They're out there, they're eating the plants, they're eating the insects, but the color actually comes from the plants that the chicken eats, the hen eats. So if the chicken is eating a lot of plants, then that's where these carotenoids, which is what gives it that color, that's where those come from. However, you don't just want the chickens that are just eating plants because they can feed them that. You want because chickens are not vegans. They aren't vegetarians. They are omnivorous. So what chickens do is they like to eat both plants and they like to eat insects, and they all have a lot of protein and all this good stuff. So if you can eat a chicken that's been out foraging like that, that's the best kind that you're going to want to get. And this keratin, these carotenoids that are in plants, that's in all plants, because that's how the plants go through photosynthesis. They need those carotenoids, and then that's going to come in contact with the water and with the sun, and it's going to help with the photosynthesis of the plant. So just because they're dark yellow doesn't necessarily mean that they've been foraging on insects and plants both, but it's a pretty indicative. So just make sure that when you get your chickens, if you go to a local farmer or whatever, just kind of see what kinds of things that they eat. Can they go out? Can they just eat free range? It can just be all over the pasture raised chickens, because that's going to be the best ones. And don't worry about cholesterol. Like we said, this is why a lot of people try to get you away from eating eggs. Well, the food companies try to get you away from eating eggs because they want you eating their food, their toast, their cereal, their oatmeals, their, whatever other toxin they're wanting to put down you at the time. So if you eat that stuff, that's why they try to tell you eggs are bad. And they try to tell you because it's high cholesterol. That's a lie. Yes, there is cholesterol, but there is nothing wrong with cholesterol. Cholesterol is extremely vital to us. Every single cell in our body makes cholesterol. So don't worry about that. And I talked all about this. The whole cholesterol thing was a fiasco that started back in 1955 or 57, right around then, with Ansel Keys, when he went out and did his 7-country study. And I talked about this in podcast number 25, the history of processed food. But basically, he just went out, he picked 22 countries, looked at what they ate, and then throughout all of the countries except 7, and made this 22-country study actually called the 7-country study. And what he was trying to say is people who eat fat, who eat cholesterol, that's how you get fat. And that's what's causing our disease. It was all a lie. There was no studies done whatsoever. And all the studies that have been done since that have proven that that was a lie. That is not true. The cholesterol and fat that you eat has nothing to do with the cholesterol that's in your bloodstream. And again, I've talked about that in past podcasts. So, and they found that these countries messed up Ansel Keys' thing because there were a lot of countries that had very, very low amounts of fat, but they had very high heart diseases. And these are things like a low amount of fat and high heart disease, like they saw in Chile. Chile was one of the countries that had more heart disease, even though they didn't eat very fat. But then there's other countries like France and Holland and Norway, and they ate a lot of fat, but they had very, very little heart disease. So that's the kind of things that Ansel Keys was throwing all that out, tried to get his theory across, and it was all a lie. But yet a lot of people bought into that. They wrote our dietary guidelines off that, and then the food companies have just gone crazy with it, and come to find out it was all a lie. So there's no reason to be afraid of cholesterol. Cholesterol and fat are very good. Do not be afraid of it. And the studies that there was one review of 260 different publications. So they looked at, or 206 different publications, all looking at heart disease and cholesterol. And of all of them, they found that 4 to 8 times the company, if it's a food company that was conducting the study, 4 to 8 times the number of studies they do, that 40, it's going to come out in their favor 4 to 8 times more than it's going to come against them. So they don't have to. Drug companies and food companies, if they come up with a study and it does not promote their product, it doesn't make their product look good, they just don't have to publish it. They just don't. So if they do fund a study, these are the ones that in general, just the fact that they're funding it, the studies in general, they come out in favor of the company that's paying them. That's just the way it is. And so it really lets you know that you can't go by those kinds of studies. But even when you look at those studies, there is no correlation between cholesterol and fat intake and heart disease. And all they can do, all these studies, any studies that are done with food, these are all like empiric studies. That's all they are. They don't take a test group, 2 different test groups, feed one thing, one for a certain period of time and one the other. And then don't tell them what they're eating. Don't let the people feed them know what they're eating. And then give them a time to wash out, cross over, and then feed them the other way. I mean, this is how good random placebo-controlled randomized studies, that's how a study is normally done. That is never done with nutrition. They don't do that. All they do is they'll give a questionnaire and say, hey, how many hamburgers did you eat last year? Or something. I mean, very, very similar to that. Is so stupid. You can't get any information. And the most you can get from these epidemiological studies is you can find a correlation. There may be a correlation, but correlation, something being correlated and something being caused by is 2 different things. And one example that I give is just like, and this one I learned long ago when I was in college, and it was talking about, they found that the number of deaths from drowning is the same amount. There's more deaths from drowning in the same months that there's more ice cream sales. So does that mean that when you eat ice cream, it's going to cause you to a higher chance of drowning? Of course not. It means that they both have the same thing that's causing it. So summer, when it's hot outside, there's more people who are eating ice cream and there's more people who are swimming and boating. And so there's more accidents. They have nothing to do with each other. They just have the same cause. And that's exactly what we're finding with the cholesterol and the heart disease. It has nothing to do with it. Yes, your heart, your body uses cholesterol, like the cholesterol from the eggs, the cholesterol from your animal meat. It uses that cholesterol. And if you tear up your blood vessels, which is what you do when you eat this frankenfood from the food manufacturers, you tear up your blood vessels. Every single cell in your body, the outer rim, the cell membrane is made out of fat and cholesterol. And so we need fat and cholesterol. So if there's a tear in our linings, our lining of our blood vessels, and we're tearing things up all the time. We're constantly breaking down cells, making new cells constantly. Right now, I mean, it's going on all the time. When you tear up your blood vessels because of this food, your body has to use cholesterol and fat to patch those cells and to rejuvenate other cells. So therefore, if you have something that's tearing up the body, of course, your cholesterol levels are going to be going higher because it's trying to patch that damage up. It's the damage from the carbohydrates, the high insulin, the high glucose, the inflammation. That's what's causing the cardiovascular disease. You have cholesterol around that same time because it's trying to heal that. So do not be fooled by anybody who says that high cholesterol causes heart attacks. It's been proven over and over that is not the case. The food companies want to continue to tell you that because they want you eating their horrible food and not God-made food. And the drug companies want you to know that because they need to sell their statins, who they're trying to sell to everybody for no reason. The reason is to make a lot of money for the shareholders, and they do. They're putting everybody on these cholesterol-lowering agents that do nothing but toxicity things in your body, and there's no good things to do with them at all. Anyway, that's a whole nother topic. And I actually talked about that later too. So anyway, that's just what I wanted to let you know. Yes, eggs are very good. Yes, eggs have a lot of things on them. One of the things it has is cholesterol, but do not worry about the cholesterol. That is not an issue. And there's all kinds of ways that you can eat eggs. What we do a couple different things. A lot of times Teresa will make deviled eggs. We'll keep deviled eggs in the refrigerator. And then if you just, you want a snack or whatever, you just go through and you can eat you a deviled egg, a couple deviled eggs. The problem with that is they taste so good, you may eat more than you really actually need to. So that's something you can do, but I wouldn't do it all the time. The other thing she does is she makes hard-boiled eggs. So we'll just keep a bowl of like 10, 12 hard-boiled eggs and just keep it in the refrigerator. If for whatever reason we were hungry, wanted something to eat for whatever reason, that's a real quick thing. You could just go eat you 1 or 2 hard-boiled eggs. It's going to fill you up. It's going to give you all the nutrients you need. It's got the protein, the fat, the cholesterol, all these other things we talked about, the choline, lutein, zeaxanthin, all those. So it's a very good, healthy snack, and it will keep you feeling full for a lot longer. So if you're just trying to hold yourself over, say you're going to go out to eat with some friends and you're not going to eat for another, 2 or 3 hours, you could just eat you a couple hard-boiled eggs, and I guarantee that's going to hold you over. If you eat something like one of these carbohydrate things, breads, chips, cookies, crackers, cookies, whatever, that will not hold you over at all. There's no nutrients in it all, and it will not satisfy your hunger. So that's why you do not want that. The other thing we do with the eggs is we scramble them. We have scrambled eggs. We'll put scrambled eggs. We'll mix that in with sausage, ground sausage, and we'll make sausage bowls out of that. Scrambled eggs, we'll mix it in with ground beef, and we'll make little taco bowls or little cheeseburger bowls where you just take the scrambled eggs and the ground beef and you scramble it all together and put it in a bowl and then put whatever you want to on top of it. You can make it a taco bowl and put jalapenos and hot sauce and sour cream and guacamole or avocado on it. Or you can turn that same bowl, you can turn it into a cheeseburger bowl and put mustard and pickles and, whatever you want, tomatoes, lettuce, you can put any of that in it. So there's all kinds of things that you can do with the eggs. There's also, if you like a wrap, like if you want to make like a burritos or enchiladas or, soft shell tacos, obviously the shells are the things you want to stay away from. However, they do have shells like egg life, and egg lives are shells that are just made strictly out of eggs. And so you can eat those. And that way, if you want to have an enchilada, if you want to have a burrito, you take these egg life wraps and then put your sausage or hamburger or whatever you want inside of that. It's perfectly fine. There's no carbohydrates and it's all protein and some fat, depending on the type of meat you have. But, and that's all good. That's all stuff that you want. So that's our protein bowls and even hamburgers. When I go out to eat hamburgers at a restaurant, obviously I say, I don't want the bun. I don't want the fries, but I'll get like the steamed broccoli. Hopefully they cook it in butter. And then I'll always order an egg. So I'll get like a double patty and I'll get an egg and they'll put an egg on top of it. So I could get like a breakfast burger. I could get, 2 patties. I could get bacon, mushrooms, whatever, and then put an egg on top of that. And it is perfectly wonderful. And nobody bats an eye at this. I've done this at so many different restaurants all over the United States. Nobody bats an eye. They're used to people doing this, and it's good. The only thing it means that you're going to eat your hamburger with a knife and a fork instead of picking up and eating it with your hands. It actually makes the hamburger even that more enjoyable because you feel like you're having a good meat and or a good meal and not just some kind of a quick drive-by meal. So those are just things we can do. So eating an egg along with my burgers or eating our scrambled eggs or whatever. There's all kinds of ways to eat eggs. If you do think you're allergic, try duck eggs, goose eggs, quail eggs. See if maybe that's a little bit different and you can eat those. And that'll kind of let you know. And again, once you change and quit eating man-made food and go back to eating God-made food, you will heal your gut. And a lot of things, a lot of allergies and things that you used to have, even lactose intolerance, gluten, insensitivities or gluten sensitivity, any of that stuff, a lot of that, just when you heal your gut, you can start eating that stuff again. So that's another reason why you should be eating healthy, not to eat your whole, you'll heal your whole body, but you heal your gut as well. So it can change the amount of the types of food that you can eat. So anyway, I know I've gone on and on. That's the deal with eggs. Do not be afraid of eggs. Do not be afraid of the cholesterol. Eggs are very good. If you're allergic to them, try different eggs if you want to. And that's always a possibility. So I'll let you go right now. That's all I've got. And as always, want you to have a very, very wonderful week. And also remember, make simple, healthy choices to live a quality life. If you enjoyed this podcast, please hit the subscribe button below and be sure to tell someone else who may want to change their health path as well. And remember, if you would like to enroll in our new online Thrive Naturally Transformation course to help you reach your new improved health goal to reverse type 2 diabetes, feel great, and get off medications, we are here to help. Just go to our website, drstevehewlett.com, and click on the Work With Us tab at the top of the page. We truly are here to help you get off medications and start living the vibrant, pain-free life that you would love to live.